There's a sound that only a certain generation remembers. The screen door slamming behind you. A bike being dropped on the lawn. Your mom yelling that dinner will be ready when the streetlights come on. If that sentence alone unlocked a dozen memories, this video is for you. Because long before smartphones, before social media, before childhood became scheduled, supervised, and sanitized, there was Gen X. And whether the world wants to admit it or not, Gen X didn't just grow up. They experienced what may have been the greatest childhood of all time. Not because it was perfect, but because it was free. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why so many people quietly agree that something priceless was lost after Gen X grew up. But to understand that, we have to go back, not to a single year, but to a very specific feeling. Gen X childhood didn't start online, it started outside. Outside was the default setting. You didn't plan to go outside. You just ended up there. Bikes leaned against fences, skateboards left in driveways, baseball gloves tossed on the grass. You roamed your neighborhood like it was your own country, and every block felt enormous. The world was your playground, literally. Vacant lots became battlefields. Wooded areas became kingdoms. The creek behind the subdivision became an Amazon River expedition. You didn't need equipment or organized activities. You needed imagination and daylight. Summer stretched out like an ocean. 3 months of unstructured time that felt infinite. You woke up, ate cereal in front of the TV, and then vanished into the neighborhood until hunger or darkness dragged you home. And here's the part that feels almost unbelievable now. No one knew where you were. And that was normal. Parents didn't track you. Phones didn't follow you. There was no GPS, no Life 360, no constant check-ins. Your mom might have a vague idea that you were at Tommy's house or down by the school. But really, you could have been anywhere within a 2-mile radius and nobody worried. You were expected to show up for dinner. Everything between breakfast and that moment was yours to fill. You were trusted to figure things out and sometimes to mess them up. That trust did something important. It taught independence early. If you got bored, you solved it. If you got lost, you figured it out. If you got hurt, you walked it off, patched it up, and kept going. Skinned knees were badges of honor. A bruise meant you'd done something interesting. You learned the limits of your body not from warning labels, but from falling out of trees and misjudging jumps. Gen X kids learned problem solving not from tutorials, but from experience. And that sense of independence didn't come from neglect. It came from confidence. Parents believed their kids were capable. The world felt dangerous sometimes, sure, but it also felt navigable. There was an unspoken contract between parents and children. They gave you freedom. You earned it by not dying and showing up when called. It sounds simple because it was. That balance is rare now. And then there was school. School wasn't a pressure cooker yet. Childhood hadn't been optimized, monetized, or turned into a competition. You went to school, did your work, and when the bell rang, your day was yours. No endless extracurricular schedules, no constant test prep, no childhood resume building. Homework existed, but it didn't consume your soul. You did it at the kitchen table, maybe with the TV on in the background, and then it was done. There were no 4-hour study sessions, no tutors, no anxiety about whether second grade was setting you up for college admissions. The report cards came home, and if they were bad, there were consequences. If they were good, maybe you got a trip to the toy store. Either way, life moved on. Your worth as a human being wasn't measured by your GPA at age 9. Recess was sacred. Actual recess. Not structured outdoor learning time. Kids ran, screamed, played kickball, traded baseball cards, formed alliances, and broke them. all before the bell rang again. You learned social dynamics on the playground, not in therapy sessions. And teachers, they weren't entertainers or therapists. They were authority figures. You respected them. They expected you to handle things. If you messed up, consequences were immediate and simple. No email chains, no parent-teacher group chats, no viral outrage. If you talked back, you got detention. If you cheated, you failed. If you threw something, you sat in the hallway. Your parents weren't called unless something truly catastrophic happened. Teachers handled problems and then everyone moved on. You learned responsibility the old-fashioned way, by dealing with the outcome. And somehow, despite less intervention, less monitoring, and less hand-holding, kids turned out fine. More than fine. They turned out resilient. But if school shaped weekdays, television shaped imagination. And this is where Gen X childhood quietly becomes legendary. TV wasn't endless. It was earned. You didn't watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. You watched what was on, when it was on. There were 3, maybe 4 channels that mattered. You knew the schedule by heart. You planned your afternoon around specific shows. And if you missed something, it was gone. Maybe forever. Saturday mornings weren't just time slots. They were events. You woke up early without an alarm. Before anyone else in the house stirred, you crept to the living room, turned on the TV, and sat way too close to the screen. Cartoons felt like a reward for surviving the week. And when they were over, they were over. No replays, no binging. If you missed it, you missed it. That scarcity made everything feel special. You talked about episodes at school on Monday. You debated which characters were best. Entire social hierarchies formed around cartoon preferences. And because you couldn't just rewatch something, you paid attention. You remembered details. You analyzed plots with your friends like tiny critics. Commercials weren't interruptions. They were part of the experience. You memorized jingles. You discovered toys. You dreamed about things you might get someday. Every commercial break was a window into possibility. That action figure, that board game, that cereal with the prize inside. You didn't have Amazon wish lists. You had mental catalogs of everything you'd ask for at Christmas. And when the TV turned off, imagination turned on. You recreated shows outside. You invented characters. You turned sticks into swords and cardboard boxes into spaceships. A refrigerator box from someone's new appliance was a treasure beyond measure. It could be a fort, a race car, a time machine, whatever you needed it to be. Entertainment didn't replace creativity, it fueled it. The shows you watched gave you raw material, but you built the worlds yourself. No one handed you a complete experience. You had to finish it with your own mind, your own hands, your own backyard. Then came technology, but slowly, and in the best possible way. Gen X grew up with technology, not under it. You watched the world change in real time. First, there was nothing. Then there were arcade machines, glowing, loud, mysterious. Then early home consoles, then computers that took 5 minutes just to load a game. The arcade was a cathedral, dark, loud, flashing with light. Rows of machines that seemed impossibly advanced. You hoarded quarters like a dragon with gold. Every game cost money, so every game mattered. You watched other kids play before spending your coins, learning the patterns, studying the strategies. When home consoles arrived, they felt like miracles. Suddenly, the arcade was in your living room. Atari, Nintendo, Sega. Each generation was a quantum leap. Graphics that seem laughable now felt revolutionary then. And because technology wasn't everywhere yet, it felt magical instead of addictive. Video games didn't dominate childhood, they enhanced it. You played for a while, then went outside. You argued over whose turn it was. You learned patience because there was no autosave. If you died, you started over. If you lost your progress, too bad. Games taught persistence because they had to be beaten through repetition, memorization, and sheer stubbornness. You didn't live online. You visited technology. And that distinction matters. The computer was a tool, not a lifestyle. You used it for specific things. Maybe typing a school paper, maybe playing Oregon Trail and watching your entire family die of dysentery. Maybe spending 30 minutes waiting for a single program to load from a cassette tape. Technology was part of your world. It wasn't your entire world. Now let's talk about something people rarely mention: risk. Gen X childhood involved risk. Real risk. You rode bikes without helmets. You played near construction sites. You walked to places you probably shouldn't have. Playgrounds were metal death traps over concrete. Merry-go-rounds spun fast enough to launch children. Slides got hot enough to brand you in summer. Seesaws were trebuchets for the unsuspecting. And somehow everyone survived. Yes, there were broken arms. Yes, there were stitches. Yes, there were stories that started with, "Remember when Kevin fell off the..." But those incidents were part of childhood, not reasons to eliminate childhood. And while that sounds terrifying today, it taught something crucial: judgment. You learned how far was too far. You learned when to run and when to stand your ground. You learned how to read people, not profiles. You figured out which kids were trustworthy and which ones would get you in trouble. You learned to assess situations. Is this jump too high? Is this shortcut actually safe? Is this older kid being friendly? Or something else? You weren't shielded from every possible danger. You were trained to navigate it. That created resilience. And resilience doesn't come from comfort. It comes from challenge. Every scraped knee, every close call, every moment of genuine fear taught you something about the world and about yourself. You developed instincts that no safety lecture could provide. Then there was music. Music wasn't background noise. It was identity. You didn't stream it. You searched for it. You waited for songs on the radio. You recorded them on tapes. You sat by the stereo, ready to hit record, hoping the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro. Making a mixtape was an art form. The selection, the order, the careful timing to make sure songs didn't cut off at the end of a side. You agonized over which tracks to include. A mixtape given to someone was a piece of your soul. You traded mixtapes like they were currency. You judged people by what was in their tape deck. Album artwork mattered. You studied the liner notes while the music played. You knew who produced what, who played which instrument, who wrote which lyrics. The physical object, the tape, the CD, the vinyl, was part of the experience. Music wasn't just something you heard. It was something you belonged to. You chose sides: punk or metal, pop or alternative, hip-hop or rock. Your musical identity signaled something about who you were and who you wanted to become. And because access was limited, taste mattered. Discovery felt personal. Finding a band felt like finding a secret. When you heard something new and amazing, you couldn't just share a link. You had to tell people. You had to lend them your tape. You had to physically spread the gospel of this band you'd found. That connection runs deep and lasts a lifetime. But here's where everything comes together. Gen X childhood existed in a perfect in-between moment. Before constant fear. Before constant connection. Before constant surveillance. The world was modern enough to be exciting, but slow enough to breathe. News didn't follow you home. Mistakes didn't live forever online. Embarrassment faded with time. You could be stupid, fail spectacularly, humiliate yourself, and it would eventually disappear. No screenshots, no viral moments, no permanent record of your worst days. You could reinvent yourself. You could disappear for a while. You could grow without being documented. Every year you got to be slightly different. You could move to a new school and be someone new. You could come back from summer break transformed, and no one had photo evidence of who you used to be. That freedom shaped something powerful: identity. Gen X learned who they were without an audience. There was no pressure to perform your life, no curating your image for followers, no comparing your daily existence to the highlight reels of everyone you'd ever met. You figured out who you were in private, through journals no one read, through conversations that weren't recorded, through experiences that existed only in memory. And this brings us to the part people rarely say out loud. Gen X didn't just have a great childhood. They had the last one of its kind. The last childhood before safety became obsession, before entertainment became infinite, before attention became the most valuable commodity on earth. They grew up when childhood was still a phase, not a product. No one was monetizing their playtime. No one was optimizing their development. No one was preparing them for the content economy before they could read. They were just kids, messy, unsupervised, bored, creative, free kids. And that's why so many Gen X adults carry a quiet confidence, a dry humor, a self-reliance that doesn't need validation. They were raised to handle boredom, uncertainty, and change because they lived through all three. They watched the world transform from analog to digital. They adapted to technology without being consumed by it. They learned to entertain themselves before entertainment was infinite. So, when people ask why Gen X seems different, why they're skeptical, why they don't panic easily, why they value independence so deeply, the answer isn't politics, it isn't nostalgia. It's childhood. A childhood built on freedom, trust, risk, imagination, and time. Time to be bored, time to wander, time to grow, and while every generation has its strengths, there's something undeniably special about growing up before the world sped up. But just after it became exciting, Gen X caught a window. A brief moment when technology was emerging but not dominant. When the world was connected enough to be interesting, but not so connected that you couldn't escape. That window is closed now. The world moved on. Childhood changed. The screen door still slams, but there's a camera watching it. Kids still ride bikes, but their location is tracked. Summer still comes, but it's scheduled down to the hour. But if you lived it, you know exactly why Gen X had the greatest childhood of all time. And once you've had that kind of freedom, you never forget what it felt like. That feeling of endless summer afternoons, of mysteries around every corner, of a world that was yours to explore. On your own terms, at your own pace. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was real. It was unfiltered. It was free. And that made all the difference.